conversation with the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas. So don't go anywhere. CaribNation is up next. And David Hines on location in the Federation of St. Kitts-Nevis. Today we'll talk with the Prime Minister of that country, Dr. Denzil Douglas. We'll talk about the Kittitian economy. We'll talk about general issues in St. Kitts-Nevis. And we'll also touch on some regional issues. Dr. Denzil Douglas, welcome to CaribNation. We've been trying to catch up with you for some time now, and we've finally gotten the opportunity. Let me straight away get into what I consider to be the most pressing matter facing the region at the moment, and that is this whole business of the free trade of the Americas. What are you doing in terms of preparing the region to meet this new challenge?
Right. I think the Caribbean region, especially the CARICOM countries, we have become painfully aware that we have to integrate our own economies into the international economic systems. And the free trade area of the Americas is in fact the hemispheric trading bloc that will in fact include us. There are many, many challenges that we would face as members of the free trade area of the Americas. But despite these challenges, we have to face the realities. One of the important challenges is that we are small states. Small states in size, in population size, in the financial and human resources that are available, and therefore it makes it much more difficult for us to take advantages of the enlarged market that is being created by the free trade area of the Americas. It means we have to begin to prepare our own selves to access the advantages from this new trading system. Of course, we recognize that information technology is one of the means by which, though we have small size, small population, small land mass, small labor forces, if we have information technology and if we are to access the new technologies that are available, we nevertheless can become competitive in this wider hemispheric trading system. And so there is a great need for us to enhance the capacity of our people to compete in this new trading system by accessing information technology, bringing computer literacy, accessing telecommunication services, and enhancing as much as possible the environment within our own territories to take advantage of opportunities that will be presenting themselves in the free trade area of the Americas. It also means that we have to seriously look at diversifying our economies. Most of our economies are based on agriculture in the Caribbean, and not just agriculture, but the monocrop type of agriculture. For us here in St. Kitts-Nevis, it is sugar. For many of the Windward Islands, it's bananas. We know that we have lost that preferential market in Europe that we've had in the past because of the realities of the World Trade Organization and their regulations. By accessing this new membership in the FTAA, we would have lost that competitive edge with regards to our agricultural products. And so we have to find alternative products in which to trade, or we have to ask for special and differential treatment as we access membership. We prefer to ask that we be given time and a special treatment in the first few years of membership because of the realities of our own economies. For example, we are talking about trading in a free trade block system. It means that our goods moving into this market will be attracting either no tariff or a common low tariff. Can we afford that? That's the question that we ask. because for St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, quite a bit of our revenue base is linked to the import duties that are paid for goods entering into the St. Kitts market. We would have lost this. What therefore is the alternative to replace this kind of national revenue base that the economy has been spinning around over the last few years? And so we have to ask either that time be given for us to find alternative sources of revenue, or maybe we may not be acceptable at this particular time into the FTAA as members. So there are many, many challenges. We have to first of all find alternative sources of revenue for that which will be lost as we enter membership into the FTAA. We have to ensure that our people are able to compete on a level playing field, and access to modern technology, access to information technology, access to telecommunication services at the highest, at the lowest level, must be available to us. Our people, the human resource, also have to be developed, have to be prepared in order to take advantage of what will be an enlarged market, and which could bring enormous benefits for us if we are prepared. I think also generally there will have to be a restructuring of the economies in the Caribbean region. We have to begin at this moment to prepare the human capacity to deal with trading at a much wider and international level than what we are doing at the moment. So we are going to have to make appeals to the international community and members of the FTAA, the proposed FTAA, to give us the necessary financial and human resource support if we are to benefit definitely from being members of the FTAA.
Mr. Prime Minister, I want to press you on two matters you raised: the whole question of human resources, or what I call an investment in people, which I think a number of developing countries have neglected to their peril. And I want to ask you what you're doing specifically here in St. Kitts-Nevis to deal with this whole question of investment in people, because the phasing-in period which you're asking for in the FTA will have to be used in a constructive manner. And I would want to think that investment in people, investment in your human resources, training them and bringing them up to par, if you will, to deal with the new dispensation will be very important. What are you doing here in St. Kitts-Nevis?
St. Kitts-Nevis is looking at the investment in human capital at various levels. I think if we were to take it from the top, we definitely have to become more involved, and we are already involved, in the institutional capacity development if we are to operate on the larger international scale. That does not only involve the public sector and the institutions of the public sector, but the private sector as well. That is why we are ensuring that whenever there are possibilities for training and for appreciating through seminars and conventions what's happening globally, the public sector is not only sent on such training sessions, but the private sector as well is being accessed in this regard. Then of course we have to look at it from the level of the public sector specifically. And we have been, as a government, investing in our people in a number of ways. Firstly, I mentioned that there is a need to diversify the economy. We are moving away from an economy that has been solidly sugar-based, sugar agricultural-based for centuries, to one which is now going to be dictated by the whole phenomena of services. Services in terms of financial services, information services, and tourism and hospitality services. We therefore have only recently made an arrangement with the local Hotel and Tourism Association to provide them with public land so that they can build their own training institution to enhance the hotel and hospitality hospitality skills that are available and which are going to be needed as St. Kitts move more and more into tourism. The local community college, or what we will call the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College for further education, which at the moment is already offering first-year university studies leading to degrees at the University of the West Indies. They recently have also been given full support by the government to introduce hospitality courses in their curriculum to ensure that our people can be prepared to get into the tourism marketplace, to make sure that the services and the skills are acquired so that they can demonstrate as much as possible their own advantages that they can have in this particular field of endeavor. We have also decided that it was important to bring computer literacy to all our people in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have introduced in our school's curriculum, the primary school's curriculum, we have established computer labs in every primary school so that all our students from age about 7-8 years begin to access the important tool of computer literacy. And this is not only in the primary schools, but this is also already established in all of our secondary schools here, and of course, as I said, at the tertiary level as well at our own community college. What this is doing is ensuring that every child who now enters into a high school system from the primary school system is already exposed to computer literacy. But we have not left it there. We have also been using these same computer labs in the primary schools, which are located in every community in St. Kitts in particular. The adult population has now begun to access those same computer labs. And so the same college, the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College, starting from August, will go into the communities around the island of St. Kitts and will bring a number of skills training programs following a period of about 8 to 12 weeks, and they would be expected to enhance and to develop new skills in our people so that they can be more marketable, so that they would be able to take full advantage of opportunities that are coming on stream as we move very solidly from an economy that is sugar agricultural based to one that is based, dominated, I should say, by services. That is the kind of investment in human capital that we are talking about. Also, just yesterday, I made a disclosure to the country that over the last few years, over the last 10 years or so, we have invested in our human capital, our students who are studying abroad, over $100 million for their skills training in academic subjects. And so we have the very first batch over the last 5 years, the very first batch of students returning will be over 50. They have been assisted in a major way by the government of this country through the Development Bank, through a students' loan scheme. This investment in the human capital is in fact an investment in the future, because they are going to become the professionals, the tradespeople, the skilled people, those who would make the necessary, take the necessary advantages and opportunities that are being made available as we move the economy from, as I said, sugar agricultural based to services. We expect that there is going to be a pool, an army of human resource ready to take the mantle of leadership forward in this new direction and this new dispensation for St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mr. Prime Minister, one of the bothersome questions in the entire English-speaking Caribbean is the whole issue of the tax regime that we use. Given the fact that you mentioned in your opening statement the loss of revenue from goods coming into the country, a revision of the tax regime, if you will, might be an option. Is this something that you're considering here in St. Kitts?
Sure, we have been looking over the years at how we could revise our tax structure. One of the difficulties that we face here in St. Kitts and Nevis is that we do not pay any tax on one's personal income. We do not pay income tax. And that has meant, therefore, that whereas before the small man was being protected because there was a threshold that he had to attain in his salary and wages before he was asked to pay a tax. Now, because we are talking about indirect taxation, it encompasses the entire population, and so everybody is being forced to pay that tax. There is need for restructuring of that particular tax regime in this regard, so that there can be greater protection given to those at the lower income end, rather than being asked to pay at the same rate, at the same level as those who are at the high income end as earners. So that needs to be looked at. There has also been quite a bit of talk about the need to remove a number of what we call nuisance taxes. We've done that here in St. Kitts and Nevis as well in a number of ways. In fact, in order to ensure that there is an enhanced atmosphere and environment to transform and restructure the economy into a services type of economy, we have removed the nuisance tax, I would call it, that was imposed for the importation of computers and other equipment that would be used in high technology to advance this nation into this new era that we are talking about. So we've done that. There's also the common talk that there is need for us to move as a region into a harmonized value-added tax. Mm-hmm. We have not done that in St. Kitts as yet. We've carried out a number of studies with the assistance of the IMF, and we have been told that there is really no advantage that St. Kitts and Nevis would gain at that particular time, at this particular time, if we were to introduce a sales tax or a value-added tax. And so we are satisfied to continue to allow the taxes to be paid at the port of entry, where government, through the customs, collects that tax, rather than having it imposed and then collected by the salesperson, who has then to hand it over to government at some later stage. So we therefore do not see any serious advantage in moving into that new regime with regard to the VAT. But of course, we are part of the sub-region, the OECS, and if it is going to be introduced in that way, I guess St. Kitts and Nevis will have to seriously look at it and follow the other members of the OECS in this regard. There is need, yes, I would say, to really restructure the tax regime, to restructure it so that, one, there is continued support for the private sector, so that they can feel much more liberalized, much more, much freer to invest their profits, not hide their profits, but give them the opportunity to realize profits and then have those profits reinvested into the business for expansion and for redevelopment as much as possible. There is need, as I said before, to lift the burden of taxation from the smaller wage earner and really put it to where it should be, to the higher income earner, the higher wage earner. In this regard, I believe that St. Kitts and Nevis, having very, very clear appreciation of the difficulties, the loss of revenue, we nevertheless believe that taxation will be with us for some time in the future.
The progressive taxation which you're proposing, of course, you know, is a contentious issue, and I think you're quite bold in asserting your preference there. Let me ask you a larger question here on the role of government.
Yes.
In this whole new global dispensation. The role of government. What role do you see for government? Should government be very much into the economy? Should government be a kind of facilitator? What role is it?
I think you've just said it. My basic view is that there is a specific role for government. Because if you're not very careful, globalization, with all of its attenuated ills or advantages, as you may wish to see them, there is need for government to be there as the middleman to ensure that the citizens of the country are not in any way seriously disadvantaged as a result of globalization, as a result of just thinking of big businesses operating without any form of control. I think government has to protect the interests of the citizens, as well as provide the enhancing environment for business to flow, for business to be encouraged and developed, in order for the private sector to be truly seen as the engine of growth for the economy. So government has to be a facilitator. It has to create the enabling environment, give the necessary visionary and progressive policies, maybe low taxation or taxation at a level which is reasonable to continue the enhancement of the development of businesses. But at the same time, it must protect through appropriate labor laws. It must ensure that the working class, the laborers, those who are being used to make the profits for big business, that they are not sidelined, that they are not just kicked out of their jobs without the right to severance and so forth because of profit or loss accordingly in the businesses. So government must continue to lay the foundation, the guidelines. It must act as a facilitator in bringing the parties together, the private sector and their representatives, the workers and their representatives, and of course the labor department of government must make sure that the environment is there so that there is increased productivity. There are reasonable prices for goods and services that are available, and of course that there are decent wages paid to those who are laboring in these businesses. Government, for example, here in St. Kitts-Nevis feels very strongly about that. My government has come strongly from a labor party, which I should say has evolved into political power from its very close affiliation with the working class people and their conditions of service. We will not move away from that. That is the basic principle on which the party has been founded, on which the government has been founded, and so government must continue to play a protective role for those who are unable to protect themselves against big businesses.
Certainly it makes me quite happy to hear a Prime Minister from the Caribbean region really putting the working class, actually using that term, working class, to describe the ordinary toilers and producers of wealth in the region, and I want to commend you for that. Let me ask you an attendant question, and this may be somewhat contentious, and you have visited Cuba over the past couple of years, and you've had good things to say about Cuba in the media. Are you still of the view that we should press on and try to get that embargo lifted, and if not, try to increase the kind of contact between the Anglophone Caribbean and Cuba?
I think that Cuba will, for the rest of time, be seen as a Caribbean country. It took some time maybe for Cuba itself and the Caribbean to have recognized that. But I think it is now well accepted that Cuba is a Caribbean country. And though there may be differences in the political system, etc., that it must be embraced as a member of the Caribbean family. I am one of those who subscribe to the fact that although there might be abuses of various kinds in Cuba, the way to bring about change and to ensure that those abuses come to an end is to embrace it, let it be part of a family, let it be part of a set of norms that we would establish for ourselves, and then we would find change. Apart from that, this is an enlightened age, and we are supposed to be tolerant of views which are different from ours. we are living in what we call a pluralistic society. And so people or Cuba or countries with a different viewpoint should not necessarily be excluded because they appear to be different in philosophy and in basic principles of governance and so forth.
Mr. Prime Minister, the Honorable Denzil Douglas, it's been a pleasure talking with you. And I want to commend you for the kind of progressive leadership that you have brought to the Caribbean over the last 10 years or so, and want to wish you the best of luck and all encouragement as we face this difficult period in the immediate future. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Well, it's been my pleasure to speak once again to another decision maker in our Caribbean. Certainly Dr. Douglas's perspective on where the region is and where it ought to be is most instructive for all of us. Until the next time, this is David Hinds thanking you for tuning in to yet another edition of CaribNation. And remember, as always, our motto here is one people, one culture, one Caribbean, one nation.